Hey, wild and wise artists. Today, let's talk about negative criticism. So the other day, I submitted a painting, this painting in fact, to a poster contest at a local art club that I belong to. I didn't win. They didn't pick me. I worked really hard on this painting, and I have to admit, it hurt. And afterwards, another artist came up to me while we were having cookies and coffee and said, I really want to talk to you about this painting. I really love your work, but these sticks, what are they? And I said, telephone poles? Well, whatever. You need to get rid of them. They're ugly. And I have to admit, after she said those words, all I could see were the freaking telephone poles. So in my mind, at that moment, the painting was trash. When someone criticizes your artwork, it can really hurt, right? It can really demoralize you and put the whole idea of being an artist, throw it all into a dumpster fire. When someone critiques your artwork and gives you negative criticism, sometimes it feels like they're criticizing you as a person. That's because artwork is deeply personal. Every brush stroke, every color choice, every compositional choice is like putting your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings into your artwork. It's like putting your soul on display. It becomes really hard to separate your identity from your artwork. Or it can trigger imposter syndrome. You know that feeling like you're a fraud, you're a fake, like you're not a real artist, whatever that means. We all need validation. We all need to be seen. Even if we are seen, sometimes negativity bias creeps in, and that is when all we can see is the bad stuff that somebody says, none of the good stuff. And for some reason, our brains are hardwired to do that. I read someplace that we often have 9 negative thoughts for every 1 positive thought we have. And sometimes I think artists might be hardwired for that more than anybody else. So even though somebody generally likes our work and is complimentary, one small bad thing will stick in our head for days. This person, even though she told me she liked my work, but she didn't like those sticks, all I could see were the freaking telephone poles. But the painting's not trash. The painting is just an exploration. It's just an adventure. It's just another stop on my journey as an artist. So you see what I did there? I turned my thinking around on it. It's not a painting, it's not a product. It's just another stop on an adventure. And the person who gave me the criticism, they're just another traveler on their own art journey, stopping by to talk to me about my work. So when I get bad criticism, the first thing I do is consider the source. Is this person qualified to throw shade at me? And if they're not, I actually have gotten really good at just ignoring random criticism from random people. Kind of the problem arrives when I do respect them, and I do respect this artist. I love their work, and they've been painting for a long time. They have a lot more education than I have. And that can kind of make the criticism worse in a way. So then what I have to do is change that around and think, what are their intentions? Is it coming from a place of kindness? Is it coming from a place of love? And I have to believe that about this person. But it can still hurt, even though the person is coming from a place of good intent or kindness, it can still hurt. These days, since I've been trying to change my mindset, what I do now is I don't jump in to agree or disagree right away. I don't jump in to defend my artwork. I use this as an opportunity to ask questions. A few years ago, I realized that if somebody took the time to critique my work, it meant that they were interested in my work. Many years ago, when I first started writing, I had sent a magazine article on Query to a publisher. This was before computers. So this was all hand typed on an old Underwood typewriter. And I sent it to the editor, and I got back a very long letter, like 2 or 3 pages of all the things I needed to do to improve it, what was wrong with it, and all what I could do to improve it. I'm ashamed to say I couldn't do anything with it anymore. I was so embarrassed. I was so horrified. And then many years later, I was working for a magazine and I told an editor about that story, and he said, "You missed a great opportunity. Do you realize that that editor took the time to critique your work and send you a detailed way to improve your work? You had the best thing that could possibly happen to a writer." And I realized then that if somebody who is knowledgeable, somebody who I respect, wants to critique my work, I am going to take advantage of it. What don't they like about the telephone poles? What parts did they like about the painting? What was working for them? Was the color choice good? How could I improve it? I use it as an opportunity rather than a way to beat myself up. That leads me to my next point, that next part of my thought process, and that is the criticism valid? Do I agree with the criticism? I may not, or I may. But what I always think is the criticism isn't about me. And that's the next point that I want to make is I never take it personally. I never make it be about my self-worth as a person. I spend a lot of time on my artwork. I put a lot of effort into it. But I never think that the artwork is me. The artwork lives on its own. Once I've made the artwork, it lives separately from me. It's its own thing. Your artwork is important though. It exists in the world, and that's a valid enough reason for it to exist, is just that it exists. But it's not about you. It's not you and your self-worth. My final point is, and I want you to say this 1,000,000 times, it's not about the product, it's about the process. The process is the thing that is important. The process is the thing you should be in love with. The process is what you should get up in the morning and be excited about doing, not about making a product, not about, is this a great painting? Is this going to win a competition? Yes, we all want to win competitions. Certainly, we want to sell our work. We want people to see us. But the most important thing is what we're doing, how we're doing it. Are we loving it when we do it? Say that 1,000,000,000,000,000,000 times every morning when you get up, before you pick up your paintbrushes, before you pick up your pencil. It's about the process. It's not about the product. After you finished a piece, be eager to start the process all over again. Let's talk about the difference between criticism and a critique. Criticism is rarely positive. It's usually negative. It points out what's bad. It points out the weaknesses, the mistakes. It can really hurt. And it's hard as a creative person to receive criticism. I know it always makes me really defensive, and that's because we're sharing our vulnerability, and criticism does not respect that. A good critique, on the other hand, seeks to know more. It asks questions. It respects the work. It respects us. A good critique is a learning opportunity for the artist and for the person offering the critique. A good critique, it shouldn't make you hurt. It should just make you think. So guys, at the end of the day, criticism is just one person's opinion, and people, they're gonna say shit. They just do. The important thing is to not let it define us, not let us define us or our talent. In fact, when we learn to separate ourselves from our work, when we learn to ask questions, when we learn to embrace it as an opportunity to grow, it helps us make progress in our art practice. If we learn to separate ourselves from our work, if we learn to ask a lot of questions, if we learn to embrace it as an opportunity to grow, we can enhance our process as artists. So whatever you do, don't let yourself stop painting because you got bad criticism. Go ahead and keep creating, keep putting work out into the world, keep sharing that deep part of yourself. Don't stop creating, because really the only way to fail here is if you do stop. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever received a piece of criticism that derailed you? Have you ever received a piece of criticism that stuck with you and helped your art? I'd love to hear from you. Let's talk about it in the comments. And hit that subscribe button, because I'm going to be trying to put a video out once a week. We'll see how that goes. All right. Bye for now.